Hello, 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 hello. How are you doing today? Welcome to Married Life Show. I'm grateful you are here. I want to be sure that you can hear me clearly. Let me be sure that you can hear me clearly, and I'll be very happy if you can let me know if you can hear me clearly. Okay, just let me know if you can hear me clearly. Thank you so much for joining. I'm excited to do this today. Okay. Thank you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Chinde Chinde. I'm a life relationship and performance coach. And this is Married Life Show. Today is quite an interesting day. I just want to be sure if you can hear me. Don't know, there's some echo. I'll be back shortly. This. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Married Life Show. Thank you so much for bearing with me. I just looked at the connection just to make sure that we're all able to hear me clearly. So if you could just indicate on the chat, just let me know if you can hear me clearly. There's a bit of hiccups at the beginning. Just let me know if you can hear me clearly. Just indicate, please, that you can hear me clearly. Okay. Just put on the chat for me. Let me know if you're hearing me clearly. Yep. Okay. All right. Okay. So they can hear me. Let's see. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, guys. I think it'd be nice to let others know that we're here, maybe in all our groups, to be part of this exciting evening. And I'm looking forward to this incredible chat. Thank you so much. Thank you. Right. So today is quite an interesting day, and we've been having a lot of communication discussion in our inner mastermind group with a lot of amazing people. And if you don't know what that is, you can DM us or send us an email or comment on any of our social media posts. We'll be able to get back to you on that. However, today we just want to bring some interesting aspect to effective communication in a marriage, in a relationship. And hence, we are talking about enhancing spousal communication to better understand each other. It's quite an interesting one. And I'm hoping that as we look at this, we'll be able to have a better way of dealing with our spouses in order to make our communication better and exciting at the same time. So we're looking at enhancing spousal communication to better understand each other. When we talk about enhancing spousal communication, it's important to understand that we want to make things better. And we also want to find a way to ensure that our spouses, in communicating with them, is very concise, is very clear, is very thoughtful, and each person is able to express themselves properly and adequately. This aspect of marriage and relationship is quite a challenging one that most couples that starts well, they're able to discuss things at the beginning of their marriage and relationship, eventually start finding it very, very hard and difficult to actually maintain that level of intimate communication as they grow older in their marriage, in their relationship. But regardless of where you are in your marriage, regardless of where you are in your relationship, you still need to understand that this aspect of your marriage and this aspect of your relationship is literally the bedrock. It's like a lifeline, long lasting aspect of your marriage that you must not jeopardize. Human beings have a way of communicating to each other. Some do it verbally, some do it by their tone of voice, their tonality. Some also do it by speaking, some do it by writing, some do it by testing. There are many ways you can communicate with each other. But it's important to know that in your marriage, in your relationship, as you grow older, there are certain aspects of your lives, your relationships, that if you're not intentional about it, you will be surprised that you're not able to communicate freely with your spouse. You're not able to share your thoughts, your own opinions, and the way things are with you, with your spouse, in a way that you will feel like they've heard you. But as time continues in our marriages, if we are not able to do that, then other aspects of the marriage will begin to suffer. Other aspects of the marriage will begin to deteriorate, and at the same time, the the love, the connection, the intimacy, the oneness, the satisfaction, the fulfillment, the togetherness, and all these beautiful things that marriage and relationship supposed to give us. The companion that we are looking for, the unity we are looking for, and the ability to freely be vulnerable with your spouse that we all need to maintain a high level of intimacy and connection with our spouse will begin to dissipate. So if you look at your marriage and your relationship, I want to be very practical today with you. And I want to be real with you today. I will encourage you to look at your marriage with an open heart, with an open mind. You might have different degree of communicating with your spouse today, or there may be things that you want to freely express to your spouse, but you're finding it difficult to really do that. And anytime you try to do that, you're not being received warmly. It's not being received like someone that really want to hear you out. So if you're in that situation, then you need to pay attention today. Or you're one that you're communicating okay, but you want to take it a whole new level. And you've been trying to do that by yourself, but it look as if you are temporarily hitting walls and blockages all the time. Then you need to also pay attention. Or your own relationship, you cannot even share certain things now. Before, you can freely speak to your spouse, before you can freely share anything. But now it's becoming increasingly difficult for you to freely communicate what is in your heart, what is in your mind to your spouse in a way that you can feel that someone is listening to you, someone is taking your thoughts, someone is understanding what you're saying. If you are not careful to find a way to revert that state where you are not feeling heard, things might just deteriorate even further. Or you might be here, your own communication is probably just not where it used to be, but probably broken to a certain extent. You not speak like roommates, you not speak like flatmates, you not speak like business partners, you don't speak like lovers anymore. You don't speak like real partners anymore. You don't speak like those that were friends anymore. Then we need to find out, how did we get here? What should we do differently? How can we approach our communication with our spouses? And how do we make it to be in a place where each person feels safe, comfortable to share their heart and their mind with their spouse? Before I go into the aspect of enhancing, I want to just ask, how do you even understand how they talk, how they communicate with you? How do you understand how your spouse share what is in their heart with you? What is the disposition that you need to see, or what posture are you personally going to take in order to understand your spouse better? Many times we accuse our spouses, we point fingers at our spouses. Many times we don't look at ourselves. We only focus on our spouses, what they hadn't done, what they should have done, things they should start doing. It's all about our spouses, but we don't look at ourselves. We don't even understand how we communicate and how we able to express ourselves. So I will look at some of the things that you need to do in order to start understanding your spouse communication style. We don't all communicate the same way. And I feel really sad to know that some spouses are comparing the way probably their ex used to talk to them, or their parents used to talk to them, or their bosses used to talk to them, or their previous close friends or current friends used to talk to them. They use that yardstick to judge their spouses today. Sometimes they don't say it out because they don't want their spouses to retaliate with a particular behavior or a particular state, or to react in a way that they wouldn't like, but they are nursing it in their mind, nursing it in their thoughts, and their behavior and action towards their spouse is based on what is in their mind about somebody else, about how someone else used to communicate. And now they're literally attacking their husbands, attacking their wives, and they do it directly or indirectly. That way will not help anyone, but rather things will just get worse. So let's start by asking, how do I understand my spouse communication style? How do I actually know how they communicate so that I'll be able to find a way to fit into that? Because if you don't know something, you wouldn't know how to deal with it. Communication is not yelling at your spouse. Communication is not shouting at your spouse. Communication is not getting angry all the time at your spouse. Communication is not throwing adult tantrums by giving them stonewalling or silent treatment, or using sex to punish them. That's not communication. Or refusing to give them what they are supposed to have. That's not communication. Or just making sure that their life is difficult and horrible and you want them to learn communication. They wouldn't. So those are not the way to communicate. But how is the way to communicate with your spouse? Number one, observe their non communication. style. Observe how they communicate with their tone, with their body language. How do they communicate even when they don't say a word? Their facial expression, their body language, their behavior around you. When certain things happen, just observe them. Observe your spouse. It's your right to observe your spouse. It's your right to discover more about your spouse on a regular basis. So even when they're expressing themselves, try to observe their expressions. Their If they are calm, if they are reserved, or they're just boisterous. This will give you clue on how they communicate. Also, you can find out maybe when they are tired, when they are not tired, when they are happy, when they are not happy, when there are situations in the family, in the home. Just observe them. Sometimes we're in this tense moment and we're not able to observe each other. Because if you begin to observe your spouse, you will begin to understand some things about them. And that will help you to know how to communicate, when to communicate, where to communicate, and how to communicate about anything. Number two, ask open ended questions. You know, give them the opportunity through your questioning to express their feeling, to express their thoughts about things. Try to seek opinions. Try to allow them to suggest something. Try to find out what did they think about this thing. Don't always put them aside. Even if it's a decision that you believe is not something that has to do with them, you could just ask them and say, what do you think about this? By giving them that opportunity, you're able to understand, I mean, what is priority to them? What is more important to them? How do they see this event that is unfolding in your marriage, in your relationship, about the children, about work, about things, about life events in general? Let them speak. Let them express themselves. In doing that, you can just know what is important to them. You can also understand what are they thinking, how are they thinking about this certain issue. This third one is also very important, trying to understand your spouse's communication style. If you can do this exercise, and I call this exercise past conversation reflection moment. Past conversation reflection moment. Think about when you guys had a communication in the bedroom, while driving, at home, out and about, on a holiday, when you're just chilling in the couch. Try to observe how did that communication go. Were they direct or indirect when they were sharing this with you? Were they joking about it? Were they diplomatic about it? Were they giving details? How? How are they trying to explain this thing? How are they trying to share this thing with you? This is so powerful. And then the other one is take a communication style quiz. I mean, I think there's one called the Psychology Today. If you go to their website, this communication style quiz, they are quite simple. Couple of questions that you can answer genuinely, and then they will give you a clue about how you communicate. And when we talk about communication styles, those ones are very clear and very direct. It will tell you whether you are a passive person, which means you don't just talk about things, you don't even care about things. And you see things are happening and you're supposed to say something, but you don't. So you want to find out, is your spouse like this? Or do you know someone else that is just aggressive? They're so domineering, their voice, they're so controlling, so threatening. Anything that happen in the marriage, in the relationship, when they communicate, you can see they raise their voice, they shout, they scream, they're very, very aggressive. Then you need to understand that that is what you have, and you need to find a way to work around it. And that's what we're going to be talking about in the enhancing section. But now we're just trying to identify how do they communicate. And then the other one is passive and aggressive style. They are not completely dominantly threatening and intimidating, and they're not completely uninteresting. They're just in the middle, very lukewarm. And they don't just do anything on it except you get them to listen or to do something differently. That is only when they begin to act. And then the other one is, what's their personality like? Do you know their temperaments? What's your spouse's personality like? Because our personalities hugely influence even our communication style. Are they very expressive, very extroverted, or they are introverted? Are they very calm? Because if you do not understand your communication style and then how the personality fuel this communication style, you'll be very surprised why they act like that. Like someone that is a sanguine can sometimes be very passive, not taking anything serious. A choleric person can be very aggressive sometimes when they communicate. Why? Because they're so confident, so assertive, and if it's not their way, then they don't want to care about anything. And then the phlegmatic, they're not even bothered. So they can be passive, very passive as well. And the melancholic can be in between, passive and aggressive. So understanding your personality can go a long way to also help you zone in to know, how does my spouse communicate? What ticks for them? How do they share things? This is very, very important. And by doing that, you will also know if they are truly, truly wanting to resolve or discuss with you or not. Another one is avoiding to talk or avoiding to engage. There's some spouse that they just know that something needs to be addressed. They know about it, but they just avoid it completely. Maybe the wife will come and tell the man, look, this is happening. We need to talk. Or the man will tell the wife, we need to talk. Now, they've been saying this thing over and over and over, and they just keep avoiding it. Anytime the topic is brought up, regardless of how good that moment is, they flare up, they're angry, they're upset, they walk away, they say, no, I don't want to talk about it. But this thing is bothering the other person. They want closure, they want understanding. And this is not about trying to win an argument or trying to make your spouse feel worthless. It's just about you trying to understand how you guys can forge forward. And some spouse just completely avoid having such kind of conversation. And then also you have other spouses that when it comes to them, they are just interrupters. You are speaking about something. Instead of them to wait for you to just share what you have to share or discuss, they interrupt you. Anytime you say things that in their brain is not right to them or it doesn't feel correct to them, they interject you, they interrupt you, they rebuke you, they correct you, and they say also. And then you that is trying to share, you're frustrated. You feel like they're dismissing you. You feel like they're taking your chance to express yourself. This kind of behavior is so uncivilized, so immature that another spouse is trying to share because they've just said something from their own lens of perspective and opinion, and you don't like it, and you just shut them down, like immediately shut them down. And if you don't shut them down, instead of you to listen, to understand and know how to get into their world, to know what they're going through, you start pulling out things to counteract what they are saying. Sometimes you pull out event that is unrelated to what is being discussed or what your spouse is trying to raise. You bring out an event of the past just to minimize the potency and the importance of what your spouse is trying to share. That is just so unprofessional. You know that your spouse is sharing something and it's something that is bothering them. But because you do not want to get involved, you want to interrupt, or you want to interject, or you want to bring something that has nothing to do with what they are telling you. And why are you doing that? To victimize them, to intimidate them, to threaten them, and to make them feel like they shouldn't share, they shouldn't talk. And many couples that do this over and over again make the other couples to start keeping quiet. Because anytime they want to talk about anything, the other couple just use one tactics or the other to make this other couple not to speak. Instead, they bring their past things, or they bring an unrelated event, or they give example when this other spouse did something wrong. But that's not what we're talking about now. You're trying to focus on a discussion that is so important to your spouse. Why are you bringing unrelated thing just to silence them? If you keep doing this, you will lose the other spouse completely. They might be with you in the house, but they are gone, emotionally not available, emotionally not present. They are not with you in that house. You might call them wife, you might call them husband, but they are not with you. Why? Because you are emotionally distanced. You are not together anymore because you don't allow them to be themselves. These things can cause serious problem to your marriage and relationship. So, knowing that these are ways to find out who your spouse is and how they communicate and how they share things. By having that relevant opportunity to take your time to observe, to check how they communicate with you, you will now begin to find out practical ways to know how to engage them. And even if you know that they are wrong, or if you know that the way they are acting is not the best, the way you approach them matters a lot. Because when somebody is thinking they are right, and then you try to prove they are wrong, most times they maintain they are right, and it doesn't end well. What you want to get out of it is to discuss, to share, and to find a way for both of you to forge forward. If you're not able to do that, this can become a pain and a problem for your spouse overall. So, how do you now enhance your communication with your spouse to understand each other? How do you do that on a daily basis? This is very, very important. Number one, start with active listening. You don't know how much many spouses do not listen to themselves. It is so sad to know that even something like listening is a very unfortunate ingredient that is not found in many marriages and relationships today. If you're actively listening to someone, you're going to understand them, you want to pay attention, you want to know what exactly are they trying to say to you. You want to recap things. You want to ask them, is this what you're saying? Is that how you are feeling? Because if you do not listen, how do you think what you're going to tell your spouse is the right thing to say? Because most times spouses just assume things. Assumption is such a dangerous game to play. And it's not the best when you assume things and you just make conclusions about certain things, and then you just verbalize whatever you think is right about the issue. What you're trying to do is eliminating and silencing your spouse. And unfortunately, you might not completely be happy at the end of the day because they will not be in the same place where you want them to be. So try as much as you can from tonight, tomorrow, when they are talking, just listen. And remember, this is a habit, especially the interrupters, those that are always giving advices, wanting to talk and do not want to listen. If you can just say, I want to learn how to listen for 7 days. I just want to learn how to listen for 21 days. Some of the challenges and the issues and some of the things you think you guys cannot discuss, you will discuss them all. Why? Because you are taking the position, you have made up your mind, I will listen to my wife, I will listen to my husband, and you make up your mind to listen to them. You'll be amazed the way your relationship will turn around. If you're the one that is being spoken to, listen attentively. If your spouse is speaking to you, listen. Try to make it a habit. Now, some couple will say, well, but when I'm talking, they don't listen. When I'm sharing, they don't listen. Why should I listen? He's always interrupting me, trying to correct me, shutting me down. And she's always interrupting me, trying to correct me, trying to shut me down. Why do you want me to be the one to listen? If both of you are claiming right, you're not going to go anywhere. Just see it as your own personal way of developing yourself. See it as your own personal way of being a better spouse. Do not allow the actions of your spouse to make you deteriorate or not even develop yourself anymore because you want to match their energy. Do you know whether by changing and evolving and getting better in listening actively, validating what they're saying, and trying to put yourself in their shoe, do you know whether that could change anything in your marriage, in your relationship? All this while you've been matching the same energy, you've been mirroring them exactly in a negative way. Where has that gotten the marriage? Where have that gotten the relationship? So this is why it's important that you as a person find a way to develop yourself in the place of active listening. And then number two, I talked about before, to try to understand your spouse's communication style. This is so important. Identify their communication style, and that will help you to base your actions towards them. Find out, how were they brought up? How were they spoken to? How is their background, or even their cultural background, some religious background, some of the experiences in their lives? Do you know that some things you go through in life has a massive way of influencing even the way you talk? If you're somebody that your parents always shout at you, yell at you, rebuke you every time, do you think you automatically stop shouting? No. You'll be amazed. You're just repeating the same thing that they did to you. So try to understand where they're coming from. Identify their communication style. How were they trained? How were their upbringing? Sometimes spouses, when they speak, it's trauma that is speaking. Some spouses are so traumatized, childhood trauma, relationship trauma, disaster trauma, failure trauma, all kind of trauma. When they speak, you can see the trauma is speaking through them. They're not the one talking. But because you are not intelligent enough to understand that trauma can define someone's language, define someone's way of speaking. And unfortunately, within the marriage and relationship, what marriage does is this. Many times within marriage, if you're not healed from your trauma, if you've not dealt with what you went through, either in your past relationship or as a childhood or sexual assault, whatever it is that you have been through, if you've not dealt with that to move forward, the trauma will control the way you even talk, the way you converse. So instead of your real person speaking and sharing in your marriage and relationship, the trauma talks through you to your kids, the trauma talks through you to your spouse, the trauma talks through you to your colleagues. Most times you try to suppress the effect or the manifestation of the trauma, even at work, because you know that you might do something or say something that could affect your promotion, affect your salary, and possibly you might be sacked. So you have a way of controlling that. But in your house, in your relationship, in your marriage, because there is nobody directly paying you so amount of money every single minute, every single day in the marriage, and because you are so used to your spouse, the trauma just unleashes on your spouse. Your upbringing just unleashes on your spouse. Those part of you, the baggage, Many things you brought into the marriage begin to manifest in the marriage. And you are wondering, why is my husband like this? Why is my wife like this? And I want to be honest with you guys today. As a marriage coach, and from what I have seen and read extensively, I can tell you very clearly a lot of the issues and the problems couples are having due to communication breakdown is what they actually brought into the marriage. It's what many of them brought into the marriage. I mean, just think about someone that grew up, normal childhood, normal upbringing, trained properly, went through things, had an experience with God, an encounter, had a very good positive cultural background, religious background, everything so works so well, very vast, have a growth mindset, and able to navigate challenges, very resilient, is tolerant, is kind, and they've molded a lot of traits in their lives. They understand their personality even before they showed up. They're able to deal with certain things in their life. They know their weaknesses. If someone go through this and come into marriage, how do you tell me that this person in marriage will automatically become domineering, become aggressive, and become very dangerous to live with? But majority of us went through so many issues. Many of us went through pain. Many of us did not have straight, normal, amazing upbringing. A lot of us have different things that we have dealt with in many ways. And these things were now brought it into marriage. And the fact that you had a great marriage on your wedding day and you were married for 10 years, 20, 30, 40 years, some people in their marriage, the baggage of 20 years, 40 years, the baggage of 15, 60 years is still in the marriage. It's supposed to be them, he and she in the marriage, but now you have an external factor that this man has no clue about. The man don't even know what happened to this woman, even though she have said it, but he doesn't understand the depth of the damage this woman has gone through, or the depth of the damage this man has gone through. And they just saw themselves on the superficial level. I love you, I want to be with you, you're so sweet, so amazing. They saw their parents and they went, they did the court marriage, the wedding, the blah 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 and everything. But these guys are carrying baggages, and then baggage plus baggage equal to super mega baggage of marital destruction. This one have baggage, another one have baggage, and two of them come together. Two baggages. How can you have an exciting life? That's very difficult. Or you have baggage, and this one has no baggage, and a lot of baggage with no baggage. You know, the Bible say that he said, evil communication corrupt good manners. What that means is that, you know, your friends will influence you, your wife will influence you, your husband will influence you. So if you don't find a way to deal with the baggage, this amazing, wonderful, good, loving, no baggage human being showing up that have dealt with their own baggages and emotional trauma, and this one that does not, that just have fresh wound, and the marriage most times just trigger the wound, trigger the emotional wound, and they come and see the way, you know, they just try to become lion, like very deadly tigers. Why? Because they need to go and get healing, right? And some other people, as Christians, as a man of faith, you have come to God and you are going to church and you read the Bible, but you have not really appropriated the impact of what Christ did upon your life. You can shout and scream as much as you like. If you don't vocally seek God in a place of prayer to deal with certain things in your life, you can go to church as much as you like. You can do religion as much as you like. You won't have any impact. You won't have any transformation. You won't have any change. Hence, you will continue to struggle over this thing over and over again. So it's very important that even as someone that have encountered God, make sure you take what he can offer from a super intelligent perspective to appropriate in your life so you can experience a dimensional change that can move you forward. The other thing, again, I want to emphasize about enhancing your communication is the use of I statements. I talk about this all the time. See, instead of using you always come across as attacking your spouse. You never do this. You are always doing this. You can't do this. You are this, you are that. That is direct attack. That is going to make the marriage and relationship a difficult one to deal with because your spouse will be very uncomfortable about it. And many times you can see they're very defensive. They fight back. They hit back. They lash back. Or sometimes they give you silent treatment. Sometimes they don't even want to say anything again. And that will not be good for your marriage. Instead, try to use the I statement. If you feel like you're not spending time enough, you don't come and say, "You never spend time with me. You are always in your office," and you use all these things. This thing can batter their faith and their stand. Rather, you can come in this format. I feel that we are no longer spending enough time together, and it's making me feel disconnected from you. Now you are expressing yourself. You are naming how you are feeling towards your spouse, and that will help them to reflect and think about how they can move forward with you. The other one is set aside dedicated time to talk and share. I call it setting aside time and setting aside a conducive place to discuss. If you feel like you're not able to discuss certain things, you're not able to share certain things, and you feel like this is not the right time, this is not the right moment, don't force communication to happen. Don't force that discussion to happen. Be wise and understand the best time to discuss this. And you can also speak with your spouse respectively. There are certain things you want to share, you want to discuss, and you would like them to be part of that conversation. And what time is the best for both of you to discuss? This is very important because each person now understand we're going to be talking about certain things, and each person will come from that place of understanding, that place of empathy, and also willing to listen, not willing to attack, not willing to make the other person feel miserable and depressed because you know that this time it is my time and I'm going to show my wife, I'm going to show my husband. I don't think it's good, and it's not going to help your marriage either. The last one I want to talk about is regardless of all these ways of enhancing your marriage and your relationship, if you feel like it is not going anywhere, you've tried to get your spouse to understand how critical it is for both of you to rebuild your communication relationship, but it's not taking you anywhere, and you want them to listen. Probably you need to get a third party in, a professional help. You can DM me, and there are other marriage and coaches out there that are specialists that can help to navigate this aspect of your marriage with you guys. There's no point just hiding or keeping quiet. And sometimes, if you don't want to even speak or share, you can get a course, a book on communication. You can get a course on communication, and you can watch together. You can do the exercise together because this is now from a neutral place. If both of you cannot discuss that directly, you can do this from a neutral place. And coming from a neutral place will help both of you to listen to each other and do what it takes. One thing I must ensure that happens in any marriage relationship, if I'm to give advice, is that you continue to grow. This is the last one. Make sure you continue to grow. Don't say because I've heard about this 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, that's it, it's over. That's not going to help your marriage at all. The best gift you can give to your spouse to enhance your communication is to continue to grow. Have a growth mindset. Don't assume you've arrived. There are ways to deal with these things. All the things I've shared, they are strategies. There are ways to identify their communication style. There are ways to enhance your communication to be better so that both of you can understand each other to build a lasting, stable, and satisfying marriage that both of you can enjoy. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes someone that is proactive and serious to have a healthy communication. And just for the record, that if you take this process seriously, the impact is going to have not just on one aspect of your marriage, it's going to affect the way you resolve conflicts, it's going to affect the way you run your home, it's going to affect your decision and your suggestion, it's going to affect your tolerance, your kindness. Everything that you do with your spouse will begin to shift, because one thing that is common among everything you do in your marriage is communication. And if you can communicate respectively, with understanding, and supporting your spouse to build your marriage and your home, why won't all the other areas of your marriage also experience the same impact and the same change and transformation that is required? So I want to encourage you, and I want to plead with you that as you build yourself up, as you grow together with your spouse, ensure that each of you do not take each other for granted. Please respect each other, be kind to each other, and just know that you are a team. This is not a competition. Stop all the comparison that you're doing with your other spouses that you know, or other people that you know. Focus on your lane, focus on your home, focus on your wife, your husband, focus on your marriage, and grow to make it better. Comparison is a thief of time. Instead of focusing on what matters in your relationship, you are looking elsewhere. So I challenge you to take these strategies and techniques we've shared to the next level by keeping your marriage healthy and strong. And if you think your marriage and relationship communication level is okay, it's probably you are doing some of these things already, and that is why it is the way it is. Now, why do you want to stop what is working? Why do you not want to make it better for something that is working? So this is why it's very, very important that whatever you think is working in your marriage and relationship, you hold on to it, you continue to build it, and to continue to make it better. And just as a way to support you, I just want to say that we have our inner circle mastermind group that we use to support couples. If you're listening to us and you're not part of us and you want to be part of us, where we share, where we discuss, and where we find a way to help each other to be their best in their marriage and relationship on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, please DM us, send us a message, and we'll be able to respond to you and find a way to help you to continue to build your marriage and your relationship. It is absolutely important that you take advantage of this. You can send us a WhatsApp message or email us about anything, about any support you might have, about anything you want us to help you do or get better or guide or direct you. Just send us a message. We'll be more than happy to support you and to make sure that your marriage continue to grow and be better. If you look at any of our social media sites, you'll be able to click on our bios and you'll see a lot there that can help you. Some of them are freebies that can also empower relationship, and others are just a tiny fee that you might pay just to help your marriage and relationship to get better. I want to encourage anyone that listening to me that we also have a getaway that's coming in end of May, and I want to encourage you, if you want to be part of that, please go to, you can send us an email, you can DM us as well, and or go to, most especially on Instagram, and click on my bio. You'll be able to indicate your interest, or even on our website, you can indicate your interest right on the front page. I'll be able to support you going forward as well. I want to say thank you so much for listening. I want to find out if you have any question. Please, you can just drop it. I'll be able to help you out to answer them. And at the same time as well, please don't forget to subscribe or like or share, and just tell us what you want us to talk about or what you want us to share. Put it on the comment box or DM us. We'll be more than happy to help you. And I hope that this has been a moment of sharing, a moment of understanding to make your relationship and communication better as you continue to work on yourself to make your relationship even stronger. I want to say thank you so much for listening today, and I will speak to you next week. April, we're going to do a lot of collabs. There'll be a lot of guys that be joining us on these shows, and they're all getting lined up already. So I can't wait myself to start having an interesting, amazing guest on the show. So look forward to that next month. Remain blessed and have a beautiful evening.